So there I was, on a warm spring night, about to bite into my long-awaited dinner, when suddenly, I look to my left, and I see someone who I think is shooting on a 16mm film camera.
Hey, is that a K3?
What?
No, is the camera you're shooting on a K3?
Sorry, man. I don't have any change for you. And that's when I got the idea. There must be a way I could shoot on my digital camera and make the footage look like film. So there I went to the one and only Google search bar for help. I asked Google, how can I get the look of film using my digital camera? And that's when I found Dehancer, a one-stop shop for anything you need to emulate film.
Alright, what up everybody? Today we are here to talk about a plugin called Dehancer. What is Dehancer, you might ask? Dehancer is a film emulation plugin basically to turn your digital footage and make it look like 8, 16, or even 35mm motion picture film. Dehancer is not for every project, however it is a stylistic choice, and style is what I choose 90% of the time. And I hope you guys like that intro. I used Dehancer on the intro. The intro was shot on the Sony FX3 using the Sigma 24-70mm lens, and I was capturing audio on a Sennheiser, I think, via XLR. So Dehancer I bought originally for DaVinci Resolve, but I do want to say I was super skeptical when switching back to Premiere and using Dehancer in there. Now, fair warning, I do want to say Dehancer did give me the plugin for Premiere for free. They did ask me to make this video. However, in the email, they clearly stated that they want an honest review, and I am nothing but an honest man. And sorry, I'm just kind of reading off my notes on my phone to make sure I stay on track. After using it in Premiere, however, it was honestly so good. It was just the same as using it in DaVinci. The whole plugin is very, very easy to use. All their sliders and their choices on how they layer things is honestly great. But let's just get further into Dehancer. I'm just going to take you straight into the plugin. So let's take our first shot here. So in Premiere here, you'll just go into your effects tab and type in Dehancer. Drag and drop the plugin on. Now, first thing it's going to do is it's going to slap the Codec 250 look on there. This is not everyone's desired look, so don't be afraid. It might look a little messy just for now. You still need to input all your settings and etc. So on your first tab here, you'll go into input, and they make this super easy to convert your footage. So source. They're asking if you're giving it a Rec 709. I'm not feeding it a Rec 709. This is footage from a Sony. So you go down to choose camera, and camera not selected, you would go in and select your camera. So clearly they have a lot of cameras listed here. If your camera is not on here, I will be surprised. Let's go to the Sony FX3, and I shot this in sgamut.cine, and boom, it converts your footage right then and there. Now our footage is converted from S-Log to Rec 709, and it's feeding it straight into Dehancer. Now you can go down to your next tab here, and in film, you can see that it's giving you a Codec 250 to start off. Now this is where Dehancer gets super amazing. Within here you have so many film stocks to choose from. I mean, look at it. I don't know how many profiles there are. I think maybe 60 something. But yeah, 60 different looks to choose from. Now I will say, I don't know if a lot of these, so like let's say Kodak 250D. I don't know how spot on this would be to real Kodak 250D. However, it's going to give you a similar look, and I mean, this is the closest plugin I've seen to real film. So let's just stick with the 250D for now, and I'm just going to keep going down the list and showing you guys different things. Now you got your film developer, film compression, that has to do with highlights emulating film. You got your expand where you can adjust your black and white point. Now go to print. Do you remember in DaVinci Resolve when you have your 2383 look? It's a print film that basically they would take movies shot on film and print it onto film for it to be projected at the movie theater. Now this film that they would print it on was called Kodak 2383, or it was a commonly used film. And in DaVinci Resolve, they give you this for free. However, now in Dehancer, you have their version of Kodak 2383, along with other print films here. Now we could slap on Kodak 2383, and you can get that look there. Now everything in ignore this footage right here. I'm getting my hair cut. Now in this, every single effect here or tab in Dehancer has an enable box that you could check on or off. That's super convenient. However, I wish Dehancer, for each of the tabs, I wish they had an opacity layer for each one. Now you can go through and adjust different things on how strong an effect may be, like halation or bloom or anything like that, using different like 8mm, 16mm, 35mm. However, I wish it just had an opacity slider. Maybe that's a little amateur of me, and that's what I want. But I think other people using this aren't pro colorist, so maybe that might be a good feature for them to add. There's not many cons to Dehancer, but I'm just going to try to list some off as I go. So yeah, you can enable this on or off. Now within here, you have all of the things like color density. Now, let's just keep going down the list. You have color head. Now this is where you can go through and adjust each color separately. And then we have film grain. Film grain is always turned on whenever you slap on the filter, as you can see. Now, I've used a lot of different film grains from, overlays that you find on YouTube and purchase to DaVinci Resolve's film grain. And I just want to clearly say Dehancer is the best grain I have seen used. And they have so many different options within here. So if you go down to the profiles, you can do anything from an 8mm ISO 50 grain, so that's going to be super heavy, all the way to a 65mm ISO of 50 to 500. I don't like a whole lot of grain to my digital footage. I just feel like some people push it too hard and it just looks mushed. So one of my favorites here is the 65mm. It's like this. Let's slap on the 250. So it's still clearly there. It's just not like going to be like 8mm. Let's turn that on. Hopefully you could see this on YouTube. But it's just really gonna mush your footage up here. I think it's just too strong. Maybe for certain videos or a certain choice I'd use that, but let's just use the 65 250 for now. The next thing we're gonna go down the list here is halation. Halation, same thing as film grain. You could choose from 8mm to 65mm. For those of you who don't know what halation is basically where you have highlights or highlights rolling off in your image. What it's going to do is it's going to tint those highlight edges red. It's a common characteristic within film. You'll see it very heavy in something like 8mm footage. You can learn more about it from a pro colorist. I'm not going to explain it into detail, but I will tell you it's a common characteristic of film that even an amateur can see. Okay, can we just get a different clip one? Everyone just see making funny faces getting my hair cut. Let me just switch the clip here. Let's just slap this here. Alright, and we're gonna do the same thing. Slap on Dehancer. Choose camera. FX3. That's game not sitting. Okay. Cool. So where were we? We were in halation. So, you could turn it on to like an 8mm here. To me, it just doesn't look right. It's just gonna look like a red mushed like everything. There's just way too much halation in this image to me. And I just don't like that. People just overuse it. So if I do even have halation on, I will turn it to something like a 65 to 70mm. That seems a lot more tuned back and realistic to me. However, I'm not even going to turn it on for this shot, and we're just going to click the enabled box to turn it off. Next thing we have bloom. Bloom is going to be something like, if you guys are familiar with a pro mist filter, it's just going to bloom your highlights and kind of add a little bit of a glow. In this footage, I am using a pro mist filter. I think I have a half on there, so I don't even need bloom. However, we can add it. So I will click it, and enable it on. Let's turn on 8mm to see just how much it's doing. So you can see this highlight roll off on my face here. Enable it, disable it. Enable, disable. Now this is with 8mm. Turn to something like 65 and it's not going to be as tense. Like DaVinci Resolve has glow or whatever that people add. I think bloom is better. I mean, you would hope you're getting something better when you're spending $450 for Dehancer. Yes, the price of Dehancer is rough, but I would have to say it's like 95% worth it. Now going down the list, I'm going to go down to film damage. Now film damage is just going to give you those like artifacting on the screen. Let's turn it on, and I'm going to try to get it as dirty as possible. So you guys could see these like white, it's just going to give you that dirt going across the screen, like something like when film is being scanned and there's dust on there. Their film damage looks great. However, I think the overlays that you find on YouTube are just as good in my opinion. And I just don't usually use something like this. So let's just turn that off. We have film breath. Film breath, now with each frame of real motion picture film, when it gets scanned, there's just going to be light and darkness to each frame that is not exactly fluent throughout. So some frames will just be a little bit brighter, the next frame might just be a little bit darker. Now film breath emulates this, so it just gives you a little bit of a flicker in your footage, another thing that I won't really use commonly. Next thing we have is gate weave. Now when film gets scanned, the image tends to shake a little bit. Every frame in the scanning machine is not going to be perfectly straight. Each one might have a little bit of a shift to left or right when the film is rolling through. Now gate weave is going to emulate this for your digital footage. It's just going to make the image have a little bit of a shake to it. It looks pretty good. It's nothing like too much. It's like kind of almost hard to tell, which I think is great. But yeah, just another thing that I commonly don't use. Overscan options, I believe these are new. They're pretty sick actually. I would say I wouldn't use something like this. It just has different film borders here. So like you could just choose and go through and find something you like. Maybe a client really wants the 8mm or 16mm look for their video, and that's what they want, so you could give them something like this, and they give you so many of them here, and it's so easy to use. Usually to make this happen you'd have to find this border on YouTube and then triple layer footage. Like this is doing it for you right here in a click of a button. Next we have vignette, and then monitor output, blah blah blah, and we have LUT generator. So you could basically, if you dialed in a look within Dehancer, you could export that look and make it now a LUT that you could just drag and drop onto your other footage. Yeah, those are all the features of Dehancer. When I say that this is the best plugin to emulate film, this is the best plugin to emulate film. I'm not just saying that so you guys go out and buy it. Like I bought this a couple months ago and then just found out that they were offering it to me for free. So if that says anything. Another quick thing, slept on feature about Dehancer. If you go and on Instagram, you type in Dehancer and you find their Instagram, they're going to post colorists using Dehancer. So if you go through and you find something you like, so like let's say I like the look of this image, you can go down into the description of each post and they're going to tell you what the colorist used. So the film profile, they're using Kodak 250D, the print profile 2383, and they'll even say what effects they're using. So they're using bloom, halation, and grain to get this look. And at the bottom, it's even telling you this was shot on a Sony a7S III. I think that's just super slept on, and I think that's a cool thing to have. Another thing Dehancer asked me to speak about was their app. Now, they did give me a free year to their app, and I was like really skeptical when they asked me to, because I was like, I'm not going to use the app. I don't really want to talk about it. Until I downloaded this thing. Look, I'm always going to edit on my computer and color on my computer, so this wouldn't be like for me. But if you're out there and you're just trying to make quick content that looks good for social media off of your phone, like this is a game changer. You can just go to your library and find a clip that you took off of your phone. Now, in here, you can just go into edit
in all those same effects with print profiles and stuff like that, you could just slap it straight on. Yeah, and everything's in here, from like gate weave and the film breath that we were talking about and the overscans. Like, look at that. That's insane that you could just do that on your phone that quickly. Now, since Dehancer did ask me to make an honest video, I'm going to try to list off just a couple cons that I have written down about Dehancer. One of the main cons is it is a little heavy on your computer. So when you play it back, you could see it's pretty choppy here in Premiere. And this is running on a PC with a nice graphics card and all that. It is going to be a little choppy, and your export times are probably going to double when you have things turned on like a heavy film grain, or you have all the features like film damage and film breath turned on. Your export times will double. I don't really know if this is something that they can even fix or if it's their fault, but just think about it. When you're baking a bunch of stuff into your footage and you try to export it, it's going to be heavier. The next con I had written down was opacity of each feature. Like I mentioned before, I wish for each effect that there is at the bottom like a scroll tab where I could change the opacity from 100% to 0% of each feature. Another con I have mentioned here is that it's kind of a con. Dehancer almost makes things like too easy, and this is like almost too accessible for someone like an amateur can literally drag and drop this on and they have professional looks from clicks of buttons. I almost don't want too many people to find out about this. I'm not a gatekeeper or whatever. I'm not. But like it's almost discouraging that an amateur can do the same thing that I'm doing within here and have the same looks that I have. Now, my last point about Dehancer would be the price point. Dehancer is starting at a whopping $449, I believe. Now, when I bought it, I could barely afford it. But after buying it, I was very pleased with everything, and I would have to say it's 95% worth it. Like, I bought it for DaVinci a few months ago. Now, let's say I wanted to switch back to Premiere or switch to Final Cut. Like, I bought it for $450. I should have it across all platforms. I think if they can maybe figure out a way in activation keys that it lets you have it across all platforms, that would be a great thing, because I think when you're spending that much money, you should have it on whatever software you want to use it on. All in all, Dehancer is the best plugin I've used for film emulating. So if you guys do choose to buy Dehancer, please make sure that you use my promo code ZenZen at checkout for 10% off. And that supports this channel so I can keep making videos and stuff like that. So yeah, that should be all for today's video. I hope you got to learn something, and I appreciate you for watching. I hope this video wasn't too much of me trying to sell you something, but I am being honest about everything, I promise. I'm not just saying it. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.